Oops, hold on one second. I'm having some technical difficulties. So once I figure out Google, then we'll start, but I'll just allow a few more people to join. So bear with me just one second, please. Okay, and there we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the 37th Town Hall today. Let's get started. Oops. All right, first up, we have Jared. Hey, Jared.
Hey, so yeah, as you know, with the events of December, we put a tight fiscal plan in place. We sold an amount of ETH to ensure that we have enough fiat runway to the end of next year. Sorry, until next year. Many of you took pay cuts in return for extra S&T to help ensure the continuance of status. I'm very grateful for that. As we mentioned, when it's financially viable and sensible, we do aim to reverse those cuts. Our focus remains on ensuring the long-term success of the project, and despite the improved situation in the markets, we are wary of making any rash decisions given the volatility. But we are closely monitoring it over the next few weeks to months, and we'll update when we can. But in the meantime, as a gesture of gratitude to those who did take one for the team, we're going to be putting an extra $500 to your June paycheck. I just want to say thank you again, everyone, for supporting the project. That's it. Thanks.
Cool. Thanks, Jared. All right, next up, we have People Ops Update. So I will be sending out more information on the offsite. So everybody, please keep an eye out on your inboxes and a discuss post. And Carrie is out today. So I will help give her updates on the engagement survey. We will share the results out with the team. But as you can see, here are some takeaways. The happiness scores were up, which is always really great to see. So thanks for the feedback. And we'll post the results later where everybody can see the rest of what everyone said. Next up, we have Nabil with the janitor update. Nabil?
Hey, so yeah, we've got the usual stuff to graphs and stuff to go through. Here is the latest benchmark versus where we were 2 weeks ago. If you go click the next slide, the main things to look at here are the deltas between where we were 2 weeks ago and now, and the progress that's been made. So you can see on the left, you have all the different features, and then where we are. So for example, keycard and status integration has creeped forward about 6 days and is a third of the way through. Mobile app improvements, half of the way through, and things like that. And you can see, and all these projects are the last things to be completed before status v1. On the next slide, you will get a different overview, which is basically a breakdown of all the tasks remaining. There may be some things here, especially the yellow bit of the pie chart, that may be removed from this list, but you can see we're about halfway through all the tasks getting completed. On the right, you can see what is on everyone's plate, and there's some things that are more on some people's plate than others. A month ago, it looked very different as work moved from design to engineering. If you go to the next slide, this is a new dashboard that we've actually been worked on, which gives a very interesting impression. And I think everyone who's working on the core application should have access to the dashboard. It's under the dashboards tab at the top of the screen. And basically, it gives you an interesting oversight into three main areas. One is, if you click next, one is an overview of where each sub-project is. Next again, you can see all the tasks that are currently being worked on. So this can give you all the overdue tasks, everything that's due today or this week. So it's kind of like, okay, this is what's being in play right now and what is being worked on. And as you can see here, this was taken about 4 hours ago, but there's already a bunch of tasks that are overdue from Friday. So this helps make sure we keep our timelines estimated. And the last section is due soon yet not started, which is all the work that is basically needs to be completed in the next 7 days, but hasn't actually begun yet. So all of this is linked to GitHub, which means that when you start working on it in GitHub, when you accept it in GitHub, it actually comes through here in Rike. So it's not a lot of manual work that's needed, but this does give a lot of interesting insight into how accurate our timeframes will be. So you can see here that there's probably a ton of stuff that needs to get updated in terms of how long it'll take. This then allows us to get better estimates for when application will be completed and follow on work like the security audit that comes after. So for everyone who's interested, you can check this out in the dashboard screen inside of Rike and update the relevant information. One of the pieces of feedback from the survey was to get a more concise overview of what V1 looks like in a time frame. And so I tried to do that in this Townhall. So if you click on the next slide, I know the Gantt chart is slightly overwhelming. So I'm just summarizing basically everything that's all the major features in V1. And the largest one is multi-account support, which was needed to get keycard integrated. And as well as multi-account support, we have the actual keycard integration into status. We're improving our onboarding, improving our mobile application performance, as well as creating a new UI and ENS flow. So these are the major features that are, or improvements that are going into V1. In terms of, if we go to the next slide, we can see, I guess, some early reflections already on V1. We've been at it for around 5 months now. One thing we have learned is that the multi-account work that was done, that became in scope by mid-April, actually was a very large feature and had ripple impacts on everything else in the application, which has caused, I wouldn't say like it's because of multi-account that we have these delays, but the fact that we aren't completed by the end of June was we didn't really know how big the multi-account work was and how much that impacted everything else. So we're underway, but that's something that we probably could have done better at. Another thing to tack on for the inaccurate estimates is that when you're scoping an individual task, you think, yeah, this should only take 1 day or 2 days, but you don't take into consideration the fact that the same person could be is attached to 5 different tasks. Similarly, June, July, August is holiday season, and we didn't really consider people, taking 2 weeks off, which, is definitely encouraged, but that then also impacts timeline. So something we should be doing better at for future iterations is making sure that we are underestimating. I think either overestimating, or you get what I mean, the amount of work required for each individual task. And finally, a very basic timeline is that assuming that we are code complete, going to the next slide, assuming we're code complete by the end of July, we're looking at a security audit in August, and then an app launch in September, depending on what comes out of the security audit. Once again, this is an estimate, but this should give everyone visibility into the work that's been going on. And obviously, every 2 weeks, we'll give updates here on more detailed progress towards these estimates. And that's it from the janitors.
Great, thanks, Nabil. Great update. All right, next up we have keycard update with Guy Louis. Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so a couple of keycard updates. This is going to be a quick one. So of course, we're progressing with the integration of keycard within the V1. It's mostly about implementing the new onboarding screens and logging screens with keycard. Dimitri is working on that, and we're pretty much on track to have this delivered second week of July. Some update about the work we're doing with the ledger integration. So fresh news from last Friday. Michele has successfully managed to release an app that runs on the Nano X, which is a keycard app. So it's using the keycard API to have a communication between the Nano X and a client-side application using the keys of the Nano X. So that's an achievement. That's great. It's working now, and it's working over Bluetooth, over BLE more precisely. So this work with Android today. We have client-side SDK that's also available. It's a Java one, so very easy to use with any Android client application. And this app can also be used with an iOS phone. We don't have a Swift SDK for now, but so this is great progress. And the next steps on this Ledger integration will be to have this reviewed by Ledger, and the status side part of the integration, which we've not prioritized, part of V1. So we'll do that once V1 will be ready. On the outreach side, we are contacting more and more projects, blockchain projects, I mean. Just wanted to note, we had in the past 2 weeks some interesting discussion with Opera Mobile. Their browser is a Web3 browser. They are interested by the idea of integrating with a smart card form factor. So interesting discussion there. Gnosis Safe, we've mentioned them for a couple of months. They ordered 25 cards to speed up their integration, which is great news. And also we had discussion with other cards, and they also ordered 10 cards to play with the cards, see what they can do with it, and hack with them. So that was for the outreach. And just also wanted to mention that to progress with our plans to set up some payment proof of concept at first, we're having discussion with several sidechain projects to set up to understand their technology, see how we could do a proof of concept. This discussion, we're having them in parallel with the Teller team, since there are needs there too. And we had discussion last week with OmisGo and the MakerDAO. Yeah, so that's for the keycard update.
Thanks, Gilly. Okay, sorry guys, I'm having just one technical difficulty again. All right, 1 second. Okay, we're back. Right, let me just skip back to the slides. All right, swarm updates. All right, our first swarm update.
Yeah, I will do this instead of Igor. So core improvements, since 2 weeks, we already have partition topic and topic negotiation PR in testing. It as soon as it's merged, I believe it should be already merged today. So testing actually was completed. The speed of syncing for group chats and one-to-one chats should improve as soon as, again, everyone will start using the version. So it's as of next release. We're still working on a huge moving protocol to status go task, and more updates about it in the next town hall. For the app performance improvements, more modules were created for network extensions. Actually, you can see from the slide that should speed up a bit the sign-in, like the startup of the application. Also, the faster rendering of heavily formatted text was again tested and is ready to be merged. In cases when, for example, we have very, very heavy formatting of several messages that is shown in the chat as soon as you open it, then on even like mid device, like for example Pixel XL, that is not super slow, not super fast, but is good enough, it could take about 7 seconds. And now again, it's in special cases, like usually you don't have these messages, but it's possible. So in like with this PR, it will take from 2 to 3 seconds to render this text. So it's quite an improvement. There is also PR match that all our icons are changed to PNG icons, so it should improve loading of each screen that contain icons. And yeah, there are other PRs that actually are not listed. So we upgraded React navigation. Also, some macros are updated that again should actually decrease the number of seconds or milliseconds for different actions in the app. We're still working on reproducible Android builds, and you can see what was done. The big next step for desktop, as soon as two-pane UI and large screens will be reviewed, tested, and merged, it will allow us to switch to mobile UI in the desktop. So it's more like we are more close to the features on desktop that are already available on mobile. So it's again a big milestone that is almost done. And again, Wallet API on Status Go side also done. So working with transactions and getting the transactions information should become faster and easier as soon as it will be used in the Status app. Yeah, that's, I think, it.
Great, thanks, Anna. All right, next we have Rachel with Core UI. Rachel?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yes, can.
Cool. Okay, so some good progress over the last 2 weeks on our big epics. So Andre finished and merged the new wallet transaction overview screen. He also laid the foundation for the new multi-account UI within the wallet. You can now see in develop that there are multiple wallets. Hypothetically, you cannot yet add a wallet, but the UI is there. And there are a few little items remaining to clean up. There's some settings missing and an icon or two missing, but we've captured issues for those. And that work will move forward with Eric over the next 2 weeks while Andre is on vacation. Julian merged native ENS registration, so you can also experience that and develop. And he should hopefully have his PR for ENS resolution in chat today. Meanwhile, Vitaly on onboarding is nearly finished with his work on the first few screens where new onboarding where you can select your new key, and is currently working on new PIN code encryption for the 6-digit PIN code that we are replacing the password with. In the meantime, I've put some bounties on some very surface level UI issues for other components of onboarding, like account recovery and new sign-in flow. And I'm also going to be doing the same with some of the cosmetic changes to the profile, just in the interest of expediting that work if possible and having more team members available for supporting multi-account. And then also wrapping up S&T utility features, as we do have a few outstanding changes to make for Tribute to Talk and for Sticker Market. And on that note, we're thinking that once Julian's work on ENS chat resolution is finished this week, he will shift over to stickers rather than profile screens and attempt to wrap up the few remaining issues for the client there, because we could very easily isolate out the sticker market feature and create a release from that ahead of the V1 code freeze. I think that Ricardo might also want to give some updates on the contract changes that he made for Sticker Market following Trail of Bits audit. Ricardo, are you online?
Yeah, the main change would be that we separate the storage contracts that are the NFTs or ERC 721 to separated contract for a better architecture, thinking about the migration process and the upgrade of the sticker market logic. So we can safely update all the logic and the ledger of ownership of who is the author of each sticker pack will be separated. So, and of course we can extend that storage by including new contracts if we need, but that's probably not going to happen. We just plan changes in the how the buying and registering process works.
Cool. And I believe that Trail of Bits will be taking another pass at the changes that Ricardo has made as well in the next week or so. And that's it for Core UI.
Great, thanks Rachel and Ricardo for the updates. Next we have Status Teller Network with Yuri. Hey Yuri.
Hey, so we more or less finalized the feeless transactions that we wanted to implement for the buyer side. So for users that don't have crypto, they be able to participate in the Teller network. We worked also on contract applicability, so we can upgrade the contracts later if we so wish, namely to use better mechanisms for escrows that might come up in the meanwhile. We're working currently on a government mechanism and also a reward mechanism for the Teller network. We did some progress on the sidechains aspect, and finally we did miscellaneous UI improvements to the Teller.
Thanks Yuri. All right, next up we have protocol with Dean.
So we've pretty much started wrapping up our minimum viable data sync paper. So we have that integrated in the status console client as well, where we can now send around messages reliably without depending on mail servers anymore. The next step is to add the remote log extension to minimum viable data sync, which allows better usability for offline first devices by storing messages in a storage like Swarm so that we don't need to wait for message retransmissions. We're also starting to work on the data sync client paper, which is going to document how clients should interact with the data sync protocol. And we've started working on Swarm adaptive nodes together with the Swarm team.
Great. Thanks, Dean. All right, now we have Dapstar with Andy. Andy.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you.
Cool. Yes, so the dApp store, there hasn't been too much progress over the last 2 weeks. LimeChain delivered the work. We're in the process of testing it and still waiting for a sort of formal smart contract audit. But as it says on the slide, you can test out the test site at dev.dapps. If you need some Rockston test S&T, then you can just contact me or Jakob or Corey. You can add your own dApps, you can vote on them, you can see the effects. And it would be great if we could get some help with people just stumbling around and finding issues that we can fix before the formal launch once that contract audit has been done.
Cool. Thanks, Andy. All right. And now we have Ricardo now with Utopic Democracy.
A big improvement now was in the research of continuous integration and reproducible builds. I'm using now Travis to build the multi-sig DApp and automatically upload it to ePFS and to GitHub pages. The link is in the relevant links. This DApp was not audited, but it's an example on how we can make this continuous integration and also reproducible builds for the apps. And this multi-sig DApp, I'm working as in the research of topic democracy for building the UI components. And one improvement was in this @address that display the address, so you can now have this menu that can be reused and use it on the lists, so that there is improvements in the usage of this component. Also, there is this new component that is the @call_data that allows the users to set the ABI of the contract so it can decode or encode ABI into this call data that can be used for setting what is the transaction that needs to be executed. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Thanks, Ricardo. All right. And now we have Eric with an Embark update. Eric, do you want to?
How's it going? I'm going to steal your screen share.
Go for it.
All right, cool. All right. I'll try to keep this short and sweet, but basically just wanted to show you guys a quick demo of the Embark Plasma plugin that we've been working on. Just quickly, what does this get us? This gets us a few things into our dApp. So this plugin lets our dApp interact with the Plasma chain. In particular, lets us interact with the Misego's Samrong chain. It exposes an embark.js.plasma API so that the dApp can interact with the Plasma chain in the browser. And it also gets us some Embark console commands so that we can interact with the Plasma chain inside of the Embark console or inside of Cockpit. And of course, the first one goes last. So we can do things like deposit from the main chain into the child chain. We can transfer funds around in the child chain, and we can exit our funds from the child chain back into the main chain. So those are some of the examples of interaction that we can do using this plugin. We're currently limited to testnet, so the main Plasma core contract is sitting on Rinkeby, and we're using Misego's Samrong Plasma network that they've set up. But yeah, we're planning to support local dev chains in future versions. And a current limitation is that the dApp must use MetaMask to sign transactions, but again, this will change very soon. We're supporting signing transactions locally using accounts configured inside of Embark or inside the dApp. Yeah, Embark's config in the dApp. Okay, quick demo. I'm going to show you guys one that I pre-recorded. All right, so can I make this bigger? I cannot. All right, so what we're looking at here is essentially, this is a Misego's JS starter kit that they created. It's just a dApp that they've created that shows off some of the functionality that I talked about, like depositing, transferring, and exiting funds.
No one can see what's going on the screen.
No one can see what's going on the screen.
Yeah,
That's great. Okay, good. You're just looking at some other stuff. That's cool. Great. Thanks, Corey. Right. Hang on a sec. Let's do it like this. Ah, look. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys missed all my slides, which would have been really interesting, staring at my Git client. Okay, anyway, so this is basically JS starter kit that Misego created. And all that we've done is convert what they had into using the embark.js.plasma API. So basically, we're showing that we can using the Embark Plasma plugin, we can support all the functionality that they want to show off in their JS starter kit. So just quickly, so you can see here, we've got a wallet address. This is the wallet that MetaMask exposes. I swear this is meant to get bigger. Anyway, and then we've got a root chain balance. So this is our balance on Rinkeby, and child chain balance. So that's our balance on the Plasma chain. So we can deposit funds from Rinkeby into the child chain. It does support ERC20s if you'd like to try that as well. That actually takes, so yeah, we have to sign a transaction to tell the Plasma contract that we want to deposit funds. So you see here that we've got a transaction on Rinkeby. You can show that that gets included and gets mined. Just maybe fast forward through that. It's not that impressive. So now if you refresh here, you should be able to see that the root chain balance has decreased and the child chain balance hasn't yet increased because it takes a few blocks to finalize. So for those of you that don't really know that much about Plasma chains, or at least the more VP one, there's a watcher that watches transactions happening on the child chain, and eventually it'll replicate every transaction on the child chain onto the main chain, but it has to make sure that that block is finalized. I think there's probably like 6 or 7 confirmations that need to happen before that actually occurs. So that's why that child chain balance hasn't refreshed yet. Then we can go on, we can transfer funds. So you can send funds to any account you want. For example, we'll send 555 way, And this is kind of cool because this is EIP 712 support. So you can see that we have a domain with a verifying contract and a salt. But we can also see what we're signing. So for example, we have an output here. We tried to send 555 way to this contract, sorry, to this address. And that's good. It's not just a bunch of random data. So that's actually cool. So you see that the transaction was very quick. I would show you, you see here, there's a link here to a block explorer, but Cloudflare killed the internet. So that's not working. And again, refreshing, it's still, you still won't see an update yet. You'll see it at the end of the demo, you'll see the update happen. But the other thing you can do, you can exit UTXOs. So again, if you don't know how plasma chains work, just quickly, they work sort of similar to Bitcoin. So they work with UTXOs, unspent transaction outputs. It's a bit funny the way it works and very confusing. But if you want to send, for example, 555 way to someone, you send that amount to them, and then the remainder of the unspent transaction output gets sent back to yourself. So there's essentially no state in the chain, and that's kind of how they handle it. So moving on to the exit, you can exit individual UTXOs. So we can essentially select one of them, click exit, click OK, sign the transaction, and that will kick off an exit process that takes about 7 days. There's like 3.5 days, I think, for contesting any exits, like any malicious exits, and another 3.5 days for finalizing or resolving those. So you see here the child chain balance is finally updated with our 555 way, and we have a transaction up here. So that's very quickly the demo. Just want to show you that you can do the same thing inside of Embark using some console commands. So this is Embark's cockpit on the dashboard. You can see here we've got a Misigo plasma chain running. It's just talking to the watcher, and we can get help, and we can see we've got some plasma commands. So the first one we can do is plasma deposit, and we can say just exactly what we did before. Let's deposit 10,000 way. It will eventually show us that we have a transaction on Rinkeby, which is good. Then we can see that transaction. It gets included in a block at some point, and that's all good. Then we can transfer, same thing, pick an address we want to transfer to, pick an amount, or type in an amount, and transfer happens very quickly. And again, Block Explorer wasn't working. And finally, we can do something like exit. So in this particular case, because it's command line, we exit all of the, and you can see it's a little bit broken, but we exit all of the UTXOs for that particular address instead of trying to pick one, because it just wasn't really command lineable. So obviously some room for improvement there. Also, just wanted to quickly show, if you go over to Explorer and click on contracts, we've configured Embark to show that this particular Plasma Core contract has been deployed out on Rinkeby. And if you'd like to, you can interact with that contract. It's very similar to how Remix works, but much more pretty. So yeah, that is pretty much it for the demo.
Great. Thanks so much, Eric. Really cool stuff. Great to see. All right. Now, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal the screen back.
Please.
All right. So now we're going to jump into Q&A. So we had just one question that was submitted through our channel today, and I believe it was about the dApp store. So in the dApp store currently, is SNT that is used to vote stake locked away in the contract forever and therefore in effect burned and taken out of circulation permanently? Andy, do you maybe have the answer to this? Anyone?
Is Andy still on the line? Andy, is there?
I'm checking. I believe actually Andy has dropped off.
So I can answer for him. So the idea, yes, is this is the main idea. So the contract is designed this way, that this SNT would be locked. I'm not entirely sure if there is a escape hatch, but we can, if that's the case, we might never push that hatch. But I don't think there is a escape hatch there, from what I remember the last time I see the contract. And as far as I remember seeing, the whole idea is to reduce the circulation of SNTs, and then this would help with that.
On top of that, anyone, if a company decided to stake your given DApp onto the DApp store, they still have the ability to withdraw a portion of those funds depending on how the voting goes after they've staked it. So anyone can stake on the DApp store, but also remove a portion of those funds. It can never be the total amount, but it will be a percentage, and then they get removed from the DApp store altogether. So things aren't necessarily burned immediately or all the way. There's a little more subtlety and complexity to it. But as long as something is in the DApp store and listed, the stake just stays there. We're going to have a token economics blog about this coming up in the next few weeks to kind of give you a lot more detail on how that works.
So do you know how much percentage is actually burned when voted down?
It depends on how much is staked. So that's part of the whole bonded curve part.
Maybe there is a link of in our YouTube channel. There is a explanation from the Andy about how this bonding curve, if someone is interested.
Okay, cool. I can share the link out after the town hall. So does anybody else have any additional questions? Nope. All right, then thank you everyone. And I will see everyone back here in 2 weeks. Thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Good job with the demo, Eric.
Oh, thanks.
Good job.